This podcast is brought to you by Radio 786.
Massive news last night that the police have made a breakthrough. 19 firearms and 1,500 rounds of ammunition have been confiscated at a house in Mitchell's Plain. The discovery was made during a coordinated search and a lockdown operation by the police aimed at cracking down on gang violence. The police public release shows that the guns were found in gun safes and in cooler boxes. No arrests have though been made, and questions are now being asked by detectives about I suppose some of the questions that I have, which I'll now put to Brigadier Novela Potelwa, who is the Western Cape Police Spokesperson. A very good morning to you, Brigadier. Congratulations, I suppose, are in order for a massive breakthrough, a lot of which I suppose the suspicion is that these weapons would have been used in the proliferation of crime and gang violence in particular. Good morning.
Good morning, Tashreeq, and good morning to Radio 786 listeners. Thank you very much. I must indicate that it is all in a day's job, and we are thankful that some breakthrough was made. But it means that we still have a lot of work to do.
And I suppose the house we now know wasn't occupied. Doesn't look like there was anybody living there. Doesn't look like there was groceries in the house. And for all intents and purposes, it would appear that this was a storage facility. It was in a quiet part of Mitchell's Plain that we are told where these guns were stored. And so naturally the question will be, who owns the house? In whose name is the house, and who may have frequented that house? That points us into the direction of who the owners of those weapons may well be.
Actually, that is part of what our detectives are busy with. As indicated in the media statement, they are questioning several individuals. I wouldn't want to dwell much on that because it forms part of our investigation. But there are a couple of people that they are interviewing with the hope that that will result in some arrests.
So arrest, of course, means that there is a view that they could be charged for a crime. But if they are talking to people, does that mean that some have been taken in for questioning?
They continue questioning individuals, and as you would know with our detectives, they work through the night. As of this morning, I have not received any update. It could well be that by mid-morning, I would have received an update and hear what is it that the interviews that our detectives were busy with have yielded overnight. But several individuals, as of yesterday afternoon when the find was made, were being questioned. Even at the time that we left the crime scene, there were individuals that our detectives were interviewing.
Okay, and that's important certainly to know. In terms of the weapons that were seized, some of them had their serial numbers filed off. Others were almost immediately determined as having been stolen. Stolen from where? Are these guns that were missing from the police station in Mitchell's Plain? A story that has been in the news for quite some time now, I think at least 2 to 3 years. Are we able to trace from where these weapons were stolen?
That is part of the work that we're doing, but we could immediately, and that's why we said last night, those were preliminary findings. Some of the firearms had been reported missing from private individuals. Others had links outside of the province of the Western Cape, and as of now, there's no indication that some of the firearms were those that went missing from Mitchell's Plain Police Station. As we always reiterate, Tashreeq, most of the illegal firearms that police confiscate were at some point legally owned. But of interest in this particular instance was the fact that 4 of the firearms that were found in the lot were not reported missing. It all brings us back to the issue of responsible firearm ownership by individuals, and I think it's a debate that we will take further some other time, that of discussing the issue of responsible firearm ownership. 4 firearms belong to individuals and they had not been reported as missing. That is key, because you cannot tell if I may lose a firearm that I own legally. I think the first thing I need to do is to ensure that I report that firearm as missing. And I think it speaks to some of the issues that contribute to the crimes that we're currently experiencing in the country.
Yeah, and I hope that those individuals will be questioned, even charged with negligence for not having reported those firearms stolen, because they could have been used in the commissioning, of course, of crime. Aside from the weapons that could have been stolen and others that were missing and this, that and the other, whatever the case may be, the police will try and find the origins of these weapons. What for me is also key is the amount of ammunition that was seized, 1,500 bullets. Now, I don't know whether that is a lot by the stretch of, the work that, well, not even the work, I don't legitimize the illegal behavior of these gangs. But to me, that sounds like a lot. And naturally, I would suppose that the police would want to investigate that. While, yes, firearms could have been stolen or lost or picked up or wherever the case the firearms are coming from, that needs to be determined. But equally, ammunition, who's providing that? Who's supplying that? Where is it being bought, etc.? Where would that stash have come from? Is what ought to determine, the supply chain of these weapons into these communities, which is being used for crime that, we moan and complain about every day, because just how in your face crime has become, how terrorized the community of Mitchells Plain is feeling at the moment. So I'm hoping that this is not just a breakthrough to curb the spate of violence in Mitchells Plain, but also to determine where the guns are coming from and who's supplying the ammunition.
Exactly. I agree with you. 1,500 is a lot. But I think also worth mentioning, Tashreeq, is the fact that it was not just 1,500 rounds of ammunition. It was an assortment. Some belong to R5 rifles, R4. So it was an assortment, and that requires deeper investigations into where these come from. But it also speaks to another issue of what we've been saying about gang violence, that when these shooting incidents occur, it is not just one individual with a firearm who decides to come out of the house and fire shots or target someone that that is their rival. But it has some level of organized crime, orchestrated. The mere fact that 19 firearms could be stashed, concealed somewhere, that speaks to orchestration. It speaks to organized crime. And what we're dealing with is not just random crime. And I think it's important that when we look at gang violence, we need to be mindful of that.
Yeah, which is again, why bringing in the army, I've contended, is not the solution. Yes, it can maybe give the police some sort of breathing room to seize down an area, but it's not quite the solution to the problem. One last question, Brigadier, and that is around the what is the thing called, the vest, the target practice thing that was also found there. Does that seem to suggest that the organized nature of the crime, that they are doing target practice to in the commissioning of their crime, that this is part of how these gangs are operating now?
Exactly. That's what it gives, the impression that it creates on us. Not only was there the target board, there was also a silencer, meaning that there could have been shootings that would not have been picked up, by us listening to gunshots going off. There is a silencer amongst the items that were seized in that house. So I think it reinforces our view that this is organized crime. It is well orchestrated.
All right, congratulations on this massive breakthrough again, and we hope that we'll get to the bottom of the origins of the weapons, to whom it belongs, the house belongs, and so on. But the police confirming this morning that they are investigating, or they are questioning several suspects in regards to the find of this cache of weapons and ammunition, as well as a target practice board, a silencer, R5 ammunition, all all of those things in a storage facility in Mitchell's Plain. Well, it's a house that now they suspect to be a storage facility in the Mitchell's Plain area.
This podcast is brought to you by Radio 786.